we are on page 29 of our journal. We're going to discuss the Declaration of Independence. Now, after Lexington and Concord, which was the first battle of the American Revolution, the colonists meet at the Second Continental Congress to discuss what their next plan of action is. They signed the Olive Branch Petition, which was basically the last peace treaty to King George III. They send it over to England, the king rejects it, he sends it back, and then after a year, the colonists decide that they're going to have to declare their independence. When does this happen? July 4th, 1776. What is the Declaration of Independence known as? It is known as the breakup letter between the 13 colonies and King George, or the King of England. Anytime you're going to write an essay, remember that you divide it up into different sections: an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. And writers of the Declaration of Independence did the same thing. They divided it into different sections. The first section, of course, is going to be the introduction, but it's called the preamble. And this is where those famous words start out with: when in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them to one another. What are we saying into the introduction? We're basically telling the king, you know what? Things are not working out. We're going to have to break up. And it's necessary for us to dissolve our relationship. In the preamble, they also mention what they're going to talk about in the Declaration of Independence. So it's basically giving him a who, what, where, when, why as to why we're breaking up with you. In the next section of the Declaration of Independence, it's the new theory of government. The colonists are basically telling the king, this is the type of government that we want. This is the type of government that we're going to have in America. Some of the most famous quotes: we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. This is where they mention those unalienable rights. All men are equal. They have the opportunity to life, liberty, and property. We got these ideas, of course, from John Locke. Thomas Jefferson includes them in the Declaration of Independence. Another important quote from the new theory of government is the quote that reads that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the government. What is this saying? This is basically saying that governments are created by people and receive their powers from the people. They wanted to make sure that the king knew that in America, in the United States, once we're independent, we are not going to be ruled by a monarchy. One person is not going to determine how our government runs. They wanted to make sure to inform the king that people are going to be the one that make the decisions and make the government in the United States. Now, most of the body of the Declaration of Independence is made up of grievances. What's a grievance? They were basically complaints. These are the whys to why we're breaking up with you. No trial by jury is a big one. Forced to quarter troops in our homes. Impose taxes without our consent. And then, of course, cut off trade, which is basically mercantilism. The Declaration of Independence is going to sign off with that Declaration of Freedom, Independence, and War. A good quote for the end is, and for the support of this declaration with a firm reliance on the protection of the divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other with our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Very iconic quote from the conclusion of the Declaration of Independence. Remember that men signed the Declaration of Independence. One person, the first person to sign the Declaration of Independence, is going to be Mr. John Hancock, and he signs it loud and proud. I did put up the replica that I have of the Declaration of Independence, but you can look at that signature on your own little foldable that we worked on in class. So just make sure that you are able to understand the quotes that we just went over, because when they test you on the Declaration of Independence, they don't ask you the simple questions such as who, what, where, when, why. Yes, you have to know them, but they're going to ask you more detailed questions.